At 6:40 on a Tuesday evening, Sleep_Easy has 2 taped boxes on a moving dolly and an open apartment door 10 feet away. His rent is paid. He has never missed a payment. The apartment he wants costs $75 less each month, and the new landlord needs $4,350 before the key changes hands. Nothing reckless happened. He did not buy a new car, run up a credit card, or lose his job. First month, security deposit, application charges, a moving truck, utility setup, and a short lease overlap all arrived together. The rent is affordable 1 month at a time. The move is not affordable all at once. That is the mystery. How can someone reliably afford a home, yet be unable to afford changing homes? Use a hypothetical example. Sleep_Easy currently pays $1,500 a month. The new apartment is $1,425. On paper, moving should improve his budget. But the day he signs, the new place needs $1,425 for the first month and another $1,425 as a deposit. Applications and screening across the search cost $150. The truck, supplies, and a little help cost $350. Utility deposits and setup add $250. A 2-week lease overlap costs $750. The total cash required today is $4,350. His old $1,500 deposit may come back later. It may also arrive after inspection, after deductions, and after the new payment is already due. A future refund cannot open a door today. This is the first reveal. Monthly affordability measures a flow. Moving requires a stockpile. One asks, can your income support this rent over time? The other asks, can your bank account survive several housing payments on the same day? Those are different tests, and passing one does not mean you pass the other. Cash required is also different from permanent cost. The first month buys a month of housing. A refundable deposit remains a claim, not necessarily a final expense. But the bank account does not care about those categories on signing day. Every dollar leaves before the renter knows which dollars will return. In this example, the $4,350 cash requirement equals 58 months of the $75 rent reduction. Some of that money may come back, but none of that future value solves the immediate liquidity test. A move can be sensible over time and impossible this week. Housing advertisements train us to focus on the monthly number. $1,425 feels cheaper than $1,500, but the monthly number hides the transition price. The transition price is not one mysterious fee. It is several ordinary charges compressed into one narrow window. Each item can look reasonable alone. Together, they form what we can call the move-in wall. That wall matters because cash has timing. A person can earn enough over the next 3 months to cover every part of the move and still be unable to sign this Friday. Income is a stream. A landlord needs a pool. This is not a rare emotional contradiction. In the Federal Reserve's latest household well-being survey, 23% of renters said they had been behind on rent at some point during the previous year. That number is not proof that every renter is trapped. It shows how many households already have little room to absorb a second housing payment, a deposit, or a surprise fee. Housing researchers have also described move-in fees as a sorting mechanism. Security deposits, application charges, and advance rent do more than raise the total price. They decide who can reach an advertised home before the monthly rent even begins. Now the wall gets higher. The old deposit and the new deposit do not usually trade places at the same moment. Sleep_Easy may have $1,500 sitting with his current landlord, but he cannot spend that claim at the new building. For a short period, he has to finance 2 deposits. The money still belongs to the housing transition, but it is locked on the wrong side of the calendar. The same thing happens with overlapping rent. Moving out at noon and moving in at 12:01 sounds efficient. Real life rarely behaves that cleanly. Work schedules, inspections, keys, elevators, trucks, cleaning, and utility start dates create overlap. Paying for a few extra days can be sensible. It can prevent a rushed move or a night without a place to sleep. But sensible costs still require cash. Then there is screening. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau explains that landlords often use tenant screening reports to decide whether to rent to someone, and sometimes how much to charge for a deposit. An old error, an incomplete rental record, or simply applying to several properties can make the search more expensive before a lease is approved. This is why "just find a cheaper apartment" can be mathematically correct and practically useless. The deeper reveal is that moving is not only a housing decision. It is an option that must be funded in advance. When that option is unfunded, the current apartment gains power. A broken appliance feels harder to challenge. A long commute becomes easier to tolerate. A rent increase can be cheaper than leaving, at least in the short term. The renter may appear to choose the current home every month, but part of that choice is being made by the cash wall at the exit. This changes how we should think about emergency savings. An emergency fund protects against an unexpected expense. A move is often expected in general, but uncertain in timing. You may know that the lease ends, the building is deteriorating, the commute is exhausting, or the household will need more space. What you do not know is the exact apartment, approval date, deposit, overlap, or moving cost. That makes mobility its own financial need. At the major reveal, sleep_easy stops looking at the new rent and calculates 3 separate numbers. The first is access cash. Everything required to get approved and receive the key. In his example, that is the first month, the new deposit, and the application and screening charges, $3,000. The second is bridge cash. Everything required to move from one home to the other without pretending the transition is instantaneous. The truck, utility setup, and lease overlap total $1,350. The third is uncertainty cash, a small buffer for the part of the move that cannot be quoted perfectly in advance. This is personal, not a universal percentage. For one person, it may be a week of essential expenses. For someone with children, pets, accessibility needs, or a long-distance move, it may need to be larger. Access cash plus bridge cash creates the base exit number. For sleep_easy, that number is $4,350. The uncertainty amount sits on top. He does not subtract the old deposit until that refund is actually available by the date he needs it. This number is uncomfortable, but it is honest. It turns "I cannot move" into a defined gap. Suppose he already has $2,600 that can be used without missing current bills. His base gap is $1,750. That is still real money, but it is no longer a vague wall. At $250 per month, the base gap closes in 7 months. At $125 per paycheck, it closes in 14 bi-weekly transfers. Those transfers do not make moving cheap, they make the option visible. The exit number also improves apartment comparisons. Do not compare only the advertised rents. Compare 3 columns: cash due before keys, total unavoidable cost across the first 12 months, and the normal monthly payment after the transition. A unit with slightly higher rent but a smaller deposit, less overlap, and fewer required fees may be easier to reach. A cheaper monthly unit with a large upfront requirement may save money eventually but remain inaccessible now. This is where timing becomes part of price. There are also ways to test the wall before committing. Ask for an itemized amount due at application, approval, signing, and move-in. Ask when deposits are refundable and when the current deposit is expected back. Check your rental and credit information early enough to dispute errors before paying several application charges. Ask whether a deposit payment schedule or alternative exists, while remembering that availability and rules vary by property and location. The goal is not to negotiate every charge to zero. The goal is to discover the real transition price before the transition becomes urgent. And if the number is too high today, treat that as information rather than a personal verdict. Maybe the next move needs a longer runway. Maybe the search area changes. Maybe the lease dates need to align more carefully. Maybe the current place remains the least damaging option for another season. Clarity does not remove the constraint, but it gives the constraint a shape. At the practical payoff, sleep_easy returns to the same open doorway. The boxes have not become lighter. The fees have not disappeared. What changed is that the red wall is no longer one impossible object. It has 3 sections, exact dates, and a gap he can measure. This is why affordable rent can still produce an unaffordable move. Monthly rent tells you whether you can remain. The exit number tells you whether you can choose. Financial safety is not only the ability to survive the home you have. It is also the ability to leave when another home, another job, or another version of your life requires it. Which part of moving creates the biggest wall where you live? The deposit, the overlap, or the fees? Share the one that surprised you most. And if calm explanations of everyday money help you feel more in control, subscribe to Sleep Easy Economics.